So I wanted to do this because, well, number one, because I feel bad. And whenever I feel bad about something, and I felt bad all weekend, I feel like I have to address this. So I did an episode recently with Marcus King, the amazing musician, almost called him a musician who is suffering from depression. And one of the things that he did, he was talking about how he looked at a hook that holds a heavy bag and was saying, I wonder if that could hold my weight. And, you know, we were talking about people on antidepressants that can't get off of them, and I brought up Theo. And I brought up this instance where Theo he did a show for Netflix, and it apparently didn't go well. And afterwards, he said something to someone in the audience where he said, I'm just trying to not take my own life or not end my own life. I forget exactly how he said it. And I brought that up. I certainly shouldn't have brought that up in that context. And I probably shouldn't have brought it up, period. But I just sort of wanted to kind of explain why I have this thing with Theo where I just want him to be okay. And, you know, we did a podcast a while back where we were talking about, he started talking about Israel, and I was like, I think you're just losing your mind. And a lot of people are like, you're covering for Israel. And it wasn't what I was trying to do. And it is my fault. It's clunky, and I was just trying to talk him off the ledge because I had seen this video, and you'd seen that video too.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
What did you think when you saw that video?
I mean, I didn't know there's other context. Yeah,
this is the other
crazy,
context.
You know?
We should say the other context. So there was a woman that was in the crowd, apparently. Now, by the way, I've talked to Theo. I apologized to Theo. And Theo and I, we started laughing 5 minutes into the conversation. We had a long talk. But one of the things that he told me was that video, this woman had said to him that she wanted him to make a video for suicide awareness. And so he said, look, I'm just trying to not end my own life. That's a very Theo thing to say. Yeah. When you take it in that context, it's not as scary. But when you see it by itself, you're like, oh, Jesus. Like, what did you think when you saw that video for the first time?
I just saw a random video on Twitter one day. I was just like, look at Theo leaving stage, and like, why would he have even said that?
Right.
That's pretty much what I saw. And I was like, I knew nothing else about it.
I got scared. I got scared, first of all, because I love Theo. And second of all, because I've known multiple people that have taken their own life that I was close to that I didn't know they were going to do it until they did it. And when they did it, you feel so fucked and so helpless. You don't know what you could have said or done differently. Since the podcast where I told him, he started talking about Israel and people were saying I was covering for Israel. There's people that even say my wife is Jewish. She's not. I don't know why people are saying that, but I get how if you are conspiratorially minded, you would think that that's what I was doing. But if you've listened to the show, you wouldn't think that that's how I've had so many episodes where we criticize Israel. So many so that I brought in Dave Smith to argue with Douglas Murray because I didn't want Douglas Murray to be able to say these things that were promoting this war in Gaza without someone who's very educated who understands what's going on, which is Dave, and very good at arguing. Have you ever been? But anyway, from that perspective, from that podcast on, Theo has gotten off the meds. He titrated off. He weaned himself off. He's doing yoga every day or running every day. He's doing something. He's much happier and much healthier. So it's for him to see that I think that he's suicidal. Like, fuck. That's my failing. That's my failing as a friend. That's my failing as a person. And it's also me talking to Marcus, almost sort of selfishly, ham-handedly try to explain why I talk to him the way I talk to him on that podcast. And, you know, these are kind of subjects that sometimes, like, you almost need like a podcast to sort of break down why you were thinking about certain things. But so then it comes out, like Theo has to defend it, and then I called him up and I said, "Dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't even think of that, and that's very selfish of me. I didn't think that you would have to respond. I didn't even think of it. I just wanted to explain it when Marcus was talking about it, and I wanted to put it into a context. Like Theo is one of my favorite people. He's a very unusual and very amazing person. The last thing I would ever want to do is hurt that guy. And the last thing I'd ever want to do is like say something that would have people think about him in a negative way, which I'm sure I did. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video and I wanted to apologize. But the whole this problem with like people that are suffering, and I'm not even saying he's suffering anymore because I think he's doing well right now, but at times he has been. They don't tell you what's going on. And especially a guy like Theo, I don't see him that often. I see him every few months. And when I talk to him, it's fun. We have the best time. We laugh a lot. I love being his friend. I love hanging out with him. But I worry, you know, and having been through this with like Ari, where Ari, like, and I should say this, like Theo got off antidepressants. Antidepressants probably saved Ari's life. There was Ari Shafir. I'll never forget this. We were playing pool and he was just seemed really weird. And I said, "What's going on, man?" And he's like, "I'm just trying not to kill myself." I'm like, "Oh, fuck." And then we put the pool cues down. I'm like, "What's going on?" Like, and so I think he was taking an antidepressant then, but it wasn't working. And I got him a different psychiatrist and they got him on an antidepressant that helped him. And it really helped. And then his life started getting better. His career got way better. That's when This Is Not Happening came out. He was killing it. And then he weaned himself off and now he's fine. And he's not the only one. I've had a couple other friends that have gotten on antidepressants and it's fixed their life. At least temporarily, and then they got off of it. I mean, I don't think it's impossible. But I get real scared when people get attached to these things and they can't get off of them. And this is the case, I think, at least in some part. I mean, Theo was on them for like 20 years. And I'd send him a bunch of these articles about these people that like lose feeling in their genitals and all these crazy side effects of getting off of these things. And so when I feel, you know, having that conversation with Marcus and not doing a good job and just sort of selfishly explaining Theo's situation and not even knowing the context of that thing, I felt like I did a huge disservice to my friend and also to people listening, like especially in this clips environment where people are getting things from clips. You would see that and you go, "Oh, you fucking asshole. Like, what are you doing? You're throwing your friend under the bus." And if you're upset at that, you're right. Like, I'm upset at me. So I can understand why you would be upset at me. That was never my intention. Both from the podcast that we did with Theo, where I was trying to talk him off the ledge, you know, but I did a bad job, you know, when I was like, "I think you're losing your marbles." I just didn't want him to just go down this. Look, it's obvious what's happening in Gaza is a fucking horrendous, horrific situation. But I was trying to just talk him off the ledge. I just did a shitty job of it. And then bringing him up with Marcus, I did a shitty job of it because I was just trying to like explain like, "Hey, this has happened to other people I know. It's not just you thinking about hanging yourself. It's like, this is a thing." And I didn't know any other way to do this other than to talk about it this way. So I think that's all I can say about it. I'm super happy that Theo's doing much better now and he's healthy and happy and he's one of the most amazing people that I know. And so I just felt terrible. It occupied my thoughts all weekend. It never left me. It was just with me all the time. And I was trying to figure out, what do I do? Do I make like a little Instagram video where I talk about this? I'm like, I'll fuck that up. I'm like, the only way to do that right is to sit down and talk about it. And then when you and I were talking about it before the show, I was like, this is like probably the perfect way to do it. When you see people that are going through this kind of shit, like what's going on in your head?
I mean, I don't I don't know. I don't have a ton of other friends outside of like the entertainment industry that I know have had any issues like that. Granted, they probably do, but I personally don't. I mean, I've never intervened or called and asked like what's going on. That's not how I handle it generally. I think
What do you do?
nothing. Nothing.
The problem with
yeah,
the nothing thing is then if they do something, you fucking live with it forever. And this has happened to me. You know, like the first guy that I knew that killed himself was this guy Drake, who was a writer on news radio. And if you ever see that thing from the VH1 fashion show where I play this crazy photographer, Drake wrote that. And he was a great guy. He was awesome, interesting. He was a comedian, fascinating guy who became a writer. And then just coincidentally, I knew him from Boston when he was a comic, and then he was a writer on news radio. And when he killed himself, I was like, what? That guy? Like, how? I never saw it coming. I didn't imagine that he would ever do that. And then Anthony Bourdain was a hard one because he's one of those ones I felt like, fuck, if I could have been there and talked to him, I could have talked him off that ledge. You know, and you live with that. You're like, that feeling of I could have done something. And unfortunately, I'm fucking very busy. And in being very busy, sometimes I'm very selfish because I'm selfish with my time. And when I do sit down with someone like Theo and have a conversation, they start talking about either depression or not being able to get off pills, or I get very ham-handed. And, you know, and in the context of a podcast, it's just not a good way to deal with something like that. It's not a good way to, like, you're trying to calm someone down, and at the same time, you're also trying to do a show. It's fucking too weird. The Brody Stevens one was a really hard one too, because I knew that Brody was struggling. You know, there was a time when Brody got off his pills, and he had a different issue. It wasn't simply depression. There was a legitimate psychological issue that I don't know what the actual diagnosis was, but he got off the pills and he got crazy, like, for a lack of a better term. He was on stage. He would, instead of ranting in a funny way, he was like actually angry at people, angry at the crowd. It just got very strange. And I think I've talked about this before, but Zach Galifianakis reached out and he knew that I was Brody's friend, and he said, hey, don't engage with him. He's off his medication. We're trying to get him back on again. And then sometime after that, Brody took his own life. And I remember thinking, fuck. What could I have done? Could I have said something differently? What could I have done? I don't think that Theo is suicidal. And I think that the framing of that in that podcast was unfair. And it was because of what he had said that I hadn't heard what that woman had said to him. Because saying I'm just trying not to take my own life, that's a very Theo thing to say. It's like, that's almost like him cracking a joke.
Yeah, I also don't think it's something you would call him up and like, hey, what do you mean by that thing you said after your show that someone caught a video of? Like, you know, just. Yeah.
I definitely didn't. I mean, I hung out with him, and when I hung out with him, we had a great time. I mean, I went to dinner with him. After that thing, I don't know if, like, that was when he went with my family to the escape room, if that was after that or before that. I think the escape room was before that. So it's like when you have a good friend, but you don't, like with comics, it's one of the things we see each other like every few months. We don't spend a whole lot of time together sometimes. And then you see a guy when you haven't seen him in so long and they start telling you that they're not doing well and you don't know what to do. And that's where I kind of found myself. I mean, I don't know any other way to say this. I think I've said too much already. But I apologize to Theo. He knows I love him, and he said that, and we laughed and we joked around about it, and I apologize for the way I talked about this. But I felt like I need to explain to other people too, to get just like what was going on in my mind out. And it certainly wasn't like covering for Israel, and it certainly wasn't like trying to paint him out like he's damaged or treat him like a child. I just want him to be okay. And when you're dealing with someone, when you have like had experience dealing with someone where it winds up going very badly, and then you're just left with this feeling like, what could I have done? I didn't do a good job of it, especially like the Marcus King thing. Like, that's terrible what I did. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to. You don't think sometimes when you're in the middle of a podcast, you're just having a conversation. You don't think about the impact that it's going to have. That's one of the reasons why, podcasts are so weird, because like you're in the middle of trying to be entertaining, but you're also just having a conversation. And I fucked up. So because I felt so badly about it, I was like, there's got to be a way to address this where I just express myself. And so that's why. We've never done this before. No. We've never done this kind of a thing after a podcast. But Theo's very important to me. She's an awesome person, a great friend, and one of the most interesting and funny people I've ever met in my life. And I just felt terrible about it. And I told him I would never bring it up publicly again. But I think it is important to let people know that aspect of it. So I'm going to call him and clear this with him and make sure he's cool with me saying this, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be. And that's it. So I'm a human, and I'm flawed like all of us, and I fuck up, and it's probably not the last time. It's definitely not. I'm going to fuck up again. But my intention is never to hurt anybody, ever. And that's why I very rarely, if ever, even get upset at anyone other than like corrupt politicians. But I do my best to just try to be a good person, spread positivity, and grow and learn, and hopefully you're doing the same.